Everybody's on a buzz. Everybody's having a good time shopping. What a beautiful feeling. Before I start my program, I would like to, we are offering two scarves on, if you can answer two questions. The scarves are being given for exclusive hijabs for the two lucky winners. And the two questions are, where is the Eid Milan taking place today? The first question is, where is the Eid Milan taking place today? And the second question is, how much is the entry fee if you want to get into the Eid Milan? That's the second question. The first lucky winners will get, of the first people to get the answers right, will win these two scarves. So you can WhatsApp us. You can WhatsApp us, and then we'll be waiting for your WhatsApp message or call so that we are looking forward to finding our first two winners for these beautiful scarves. The WhatsApp number is 060-904-1056. 060-904-1056. The question is, where is the Eid Milan taking place today? And the second question is, how much is the entry fee? The scarves are donated by Exclusive Hijabs. Beautiful scarves. They look very nice. I can see them. Although we don't, it's a lady thing, but you can feel it. Feels good. The material is good. It's good quality. It's good stuff. Alhamdulillah. Okay, we need to get into our program. It's for us as RAUF, as an organization, today is indeed a very sad day. I'm sorry I have to break this news, but we've lost one of our very, very, very sincere, dedicated, committed members, Vasi Governor. He wasn't a Muslim, but Alhamdulillah, he's been giving his life to this cause. He's been with us for over 20 years on a voluntary basis, being there with us all the time. So, it's a big loss to the organization. Our condolences to his family. And, it's a difficult time. We hope everything goes well for his family. But going very quickly to my program, I have two speakers today. Remember, this is a motivational program, and then we'll tackle some questions and answers as we go along. I have two speakers with me. I have Duzuzo, who is from Johannesburg, and I have Samir from Durban. These are two of our recoveries. This is a motivational segment. The first segment of the program is a motivational segment. I'd like to introduce, these are the two speakers. Good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum.
Good afternoon, Uncle. How are you?
Okay, I have our two youngsters here, and I've got our Hafiz Muhammad Minti, who's on a co-host with me. Assalamu alaikum, Muhammad.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, we're going to get very quickly. I think we start with Duduzo, who's from Johannesburg. Tell us a little bit about your background, the type of upbringing, the home that you come from, and how it all started.
Okay, before I start, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank Radio Al Ansar's listeners for tuning in, and also thank the Refocus and Upliftment Foundation for granting me my life back. As Uncle Evie said, my name is Nduduzo Koza. I'm from Johannesburg, originally grew up in Pretoria. And just a bit of background on my life, I attended primary school, went to high school, got a chance to study one of my four found passions, which is film and television at AFDA Johannesburg. And I think for the most part, that's where all the trouble started. When you're growing up and you don't really have a really affirmed understanding of yourself, and you do not recollect whether or not you're in the right space mentally, emotionally, and so forth. So I think at that stage, growing up, when you're in university, that's when you should affirm yourself the most. And I didn't have that. So for me, that's when everything started happening. I was joining the wrong crowds, disrespecting my mother, disrespecting my friends and peers and so forth. And eventually I started falling into, substance abuse. I started off with weed, which now I realize is the biggest gateway drug. I started smoking
and
weed.
now currently socially acceptable.
Socially acceptable. I mean, even throughout the country, there are all these laws and so forth that make it acceptable. But it's a gateway drug that I fell into. And from then onwards, developed onto other drugs. And my biggest downfall was crystal meth. I was smoking crystal meth for the past 8 years. And, coming from a affluent family, my mom being a CEO, working all hours of the night. She's working very hard, jumping from company to company, being one of the most prominent women in Johannesburg in the industry. We were too good for. We had everything that we ever asked for. We never fell short of anything. And I think my biggest misunderstanding at that point was not being appreciative of the fact of the hard work that was put into securing our future, securing the type of education that we had, the opportunities that we had. Um, so I think that's where most of the trouble started. And for me, I wouldn't lie, Uncle Ibi. I'd say I feel a lot of remorse when it comes to that because I've put my mom, my family in under a lot of humiliation and disappointment. But I'm really glad that I've gotten this opportunity to sort out my life. If you don't mind, I'll just tell you how I managed to be a part of RAUF and the RAUF program. So my mother really thought that I had a big weed problem. I was trying to grow, importing seeds from overseas and trying to, develop my own strand and so forth. But she was speaking to a colleague one day at a workplace, and she just shared with the colleague that, I'm really worried about my son. I think he's doing too much. He's not focusing on what he should be focusing.
Tell me, how were you getting money? Were you stealing things from home, or you had enough money to spend? That
Initially, how it started is that because I went to go study film and television, how it started is that I had my own little Lens Africa film production company. So I was shooting. But when you start developing a habit and you can't maintain your habit, which is the downfall of substance abuse, that's what happened. I couldn't maintain my habit through my own efforts. So slowly but surely, I started stealing from my mother. I started stealing from other family members, taking shortcuts from there. When a client would pay upfront, maybe I wouldn't deliver the work and so forth. So many areas of my life were impacted by my habits. And I can remember when things were down and low, I always had a next resort. I'd always spin some sort of sob story to my mother. And because her being the person she is, who wants the best for her children, like all other parents, she would always be in my corner and support me, not understanding that I'm a very manipulative person. The nature of a drug addict is to manipulate, to be deceitful. And that what I was doing that on a daily basis. And I remember, coming home and doing all these kind of wrong things and not really understanding where I was gonna end up. So slowly but surely, as she was speaking to a colleague shared that there's a program RAUF which is based in Durban, which I think can really help your son. The programs are all over the country, so it's not a hesitant thing for you to attend a program. You're from Pretoria, you can attend a program in Joburg. So mom was like, she came back to me one evening and she said, "Look, listen, this is what I think you're going through, and this is what I think would help you."
and she thought it was Dhaka all along.
She thought it was Dacha all along. I mean, for the most part, I miss this aspect, but also just my responsibility as a father. In that time, I had a son, and I was not fulfilling my responsibilities as a father. So every little thing, whether I'm working or not, I always needed money. I always needed money because of my habit. She couldn't understand why I'm not able to provide for my son, why I'm not able to meet and so forth. So she was really concerned. And when she had this conversation with me, the premise of it was, if you do not take this opportunity, I am going to take, your son away from you. And I've always wanted a son. I grew up with no father. But I at that point, I understood, for the longest part, I understood, Uncle Ibi, that I had a problem. I understood that there are rehabs, there is places I can get help. But being prideful, being boastful, I thought I can do it on my own. And that is not the wrong idea to have. So backtracking to the story, my mother said, "You know what? I'll take your son away from you if you don't take this opportunity. Let's just go
Was
out."
she attending program at that time, or it was?
She wasn't. She wasn't
Okay.
attending
So
program.
she had already started applying tough love in her own way.
Yes. From the get go, she had already started. She's always been a person like that who, when I am taking her for granted, she will take her stance.
She knows when to put the brakes.
She definitely does. So we went to the program and she attended, which is another thing that I think is the most beneficial aspect when it comes to RAUF as an organization, as a program that helps families get together. When I went to my side of the program, I was being taught.
So basically, your mom goes to her support group.
Yes.
She's the caregiver, and then you would sit in the recovery program.
I would sit in a
Okay.
recovery program, and generally what happens is that there is an introduction phase because I was still new, and We were just backtracking to how we ended up in these situations, and we're discussing ways forward in terms of what it is that we need to do. And from the beginning, I could see that this is a different program. Bear in mind, I've never been to any other program. I have friends who've been to other programs, friends who've told me that other rehabs are like this, other rehabs are like this, but they've always stressed the point that they, even after you go to the rehab, there's no support after. So it's like you're back in the loop. But in the program, I found a general understanding of what should happen. They gave me the rules on how to, carry myself and what would be the most advantageous way for me to carry myself if I really want
Okay.
recovery. And from then onwards, my mother also on her side, she was being taught on how to deal with me as an addict when I behave in certain ways, when I am moody and so forth. These are the things that are happening, and we found a home away from home, because in that space we were able to share, speak, and also get things off our chest that we couldn't really speak about at home. We were able to come to an understanding of what she's going through as a parent, what I'm going through as a child, and we'll also come to a general understanding of how serious my problem is. For the longest time, I always thought it's downplayed. It's just, and then at one of the programs, because I was attending program for 3 months before we took, the decision to actually come down to Durban and go to, be in the facility. So at one of the programs, my mom suggested that I get tested because she wanted clarity on in terms of are there any other substances
Still
I'm
thinking it
using.
was Dhaka.
She just still thought it was Dacha. And I got tested, and as you know, if it were the test, you can't hide anything. So it came out that I was smoking crystal meth. Mind you, I'd been smoking crystal meth for the past 8 years. So
That's a
imagine
long
how
time.
yes, it's a very long time. Imagine how deceitful, how manipulative I am to hide it for 8 years, hide it from my mother, my sister, my uncles, my wife, and all of, and the rest of my family. So that's just a bit of my life story and how I ended up in RAUF. And you know, I'm really grateful, Uncle Ibi. I'd be a liar if I didn't give you a pound right now and say you've developed a structure that can help people and really help, extend a helping hand. For me, I've learned quite a few things about myself that I would have never learned on the outside or on my own. I've learned that I'm a weak person emotionally, and my mind state is very fragile. I've always suffered with suicidal thoughts, always suffered with, a lack of identity. And, you get teased sometimes for growing up in a rich area and speaking English so well, but you're black, you've lost culture and so forth. It really had me back and forth. And those are some of the things that I wouldn't say contributed, but because I didn't have an understanding, they had me stumble. So I was stumbling at a lot of points in my life. I was stumbling, and I remember when I named my son, I named him Skale Sihle, which means beautiful new beginning. But because I was still an addict, I was still in that, the addiction still had the grasp on me. I can truly say that now for me is a beautiful new beginning. I'm looking at things with a very different perspective now. We've been attending awarenesses and going to schools and teaching people about what is, addiction and
I've
substance
seen some of those
abuse.
programs. They're beautiful,
They're
very
beautiful, Uncle
inspirational.
Ibi. Very
Coming from
beautiful.
your experience in the media thing,
Yes,
it
yes.
added more,
More.
more value, and it made it more meaningful.
Yes, that's true, because now the songs I used to make, the type of content that I
I
used
see
to make.
you can create a song from nothing, and the one school you went to, the entire school was singing with you. It was quite
You,
nice.
you know, the
It's a
song we,
beautiful
we
thing.
taught the Uncle Ibi is a very, I hold it very close to my heart. The song goes, be careful of your friends, you don't have to follow trends. Many people, they pretend, okay. We say no, put a stop to all the drugs, la 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 la. So in that song or in the message, we're conveying that, yes, be careful of the people that you think are your friends. Be careful of the trends you follow, because a habit and a trend is something that will get you on a path that will mislead you. And another thing is, you know, it's never good to pretend that you're something that you're not. Rather stay true to yourself. And because I'm also a non-Muslim who's attending a Muslim facility, you would think that the aspect of religion played a huge role, or for me it's been quite the contrary, because I've learned so much. I've broadened my horizons in terms of how people perceive religion and belief as well, and how it helps them and could help me as well. When I went home, my mom, she's like, "Are you Muslim now?" I'm like, "No, I'm not Muslim, but inshallah, should God will it, I would be willing to." But I've learned that belief is quite a very important thing. When I see the brothers, my brothers in
Okay,
recovery,
what was your understanding or your impression of Islam before you got to the program?
I won't lie. When I got to the program, I had a very negative.
I saw that.
I had a very
I saw that
negative.
you were not in
connect-
a good space.
I wasn't in a good space because I do believe in African spirituality. I do have a calling, so I had a very negative understanding and connotation about it. Because Islam was something I was never really open to, or to even like understanding. Yes, I did have Muslim friends when I was growing up who I was just always angry that they were leaving on Friday. I didn't know where they were going when they're leaving school, but I didn't really understand it. But fast forward 12 months later, I have this in depth understanding of how truly it is important to have faith and support and a support system when you are actively doing things that you want to progress in. And this coming together of, because we also believe in my culture that when you pray together and when you come together, that solidarity is very important. So that's what I've been gaining an understanding of. And Islam is a very beautiful religion. Yes, I've had kind of negative understanding towards it, but now my eyes are a bit more open.
About being terrorist, extremist.
I won't lie. What the movies do. They propagate all this negative content, but that's truly the opposite. You guys are caring. I've seen in the benefits runs that we're doing, the feeding scheme that we're doing in both in the farm and at the center. You guys are helping people that are stricken by poverty. You bring them up, uplifting them. Not only are you uplifting us who've chosen to be in a path that's so wrong, but you've also uplifted people who have not chosen it. It's not by choice that they're in the position that they're in. So it's a very heartwarming thing to see. And when people do come together and take a stance on something, it's a very pushing thing that also inspires another person. So I have been inspired by these, going out and educating people. For the longest time, I didn't understand what Eid was. I didn't understand what Taraweeh is. The understanding of what the difference between this sect and that sect. But Islam is a religion. It is to stand together, whether this sect or that sect. I have
All
an
pray
understand-
together.
We all pray together, and on the farm, I don't know if this was wrong of me, but I did once wear a kurta, and
No problem.
I felt some sense of this feels right. You understand? So
Alhamdulillah.
I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for how far I've come. I'm very grateful for the things that I've done in this part of recovery. When I was speaking to my mom and she was saying she I can't she told me basically I can't believe how proud she is, because not only have I taken a stance, but I've also let her affirm things about herself. And this is one thing that I really want to speak about, and I'd like for the listeners to listen to. You know, as an addict or as a person that's doing things that are wrong, we don't know how much it tremendously affects the people who love us. And when I had this conversation with my mom, she said, taking this choice to actually fix my life and be in a path that's right, it's affirmed things about herself. Now she can walk into a room and say and be proud to say that my son is a recovering drug addict. She's no longer ashamed of the things that I've done, and how, for me, that feels like I've
It's a
free.
good feeling.
It's a good feeling as a child who thinks that you've disappointed, and it kind of gives you the suggestion that I should continue on this path, because all the things that I was doing when I was looking for the love that I that was always there, mind you, that I didn't think I had. I was always looking for my mother to say, "I'm proud of you, my son, in whatever you do." Now, after all these bad things that I've done, just taking one decision to actually stick to something and you know see it through. She's saying the things that I've always longed for, and it's a very heartwarming
Alhamdulillah.
feeling for me. And I also had a conversation with my sister, Uncle Ebi. She's like, for the longest time, I've wanted my brother back. All these things that you were doing, I was always in your corner, whether you were doing right or wrong. I was always in the corner. But now I can say that I'm getting glimpses of my brother back. My son, when I went for integration, the first thing he did when he picked me up is ask me, "Daddy, are you okay now?" He can see it in my eyes that I'm no longer, feeling down, depressed, and so the program has helped me a lot. Changing my mindset, learning tools that will help me, navigate this path or this newfound path that I have, and I'm very grateful for that. Excuse me, just also learning about myself in totality, and learning how to be around other people, not to be a nuisance, always respect another person, because I also want to be respected. And as a drug addict, you just do what you want, you have no respect, no you know understanding of what it is to be in a space with another person. So now I just like I'm looking towards how can I use my talents now, use my talents in a way that can benefit other people. I'm thinking about content that can be informative, be a pillar of light in some way or format. You understand? Because we're all talented in some way, and that's another thing that Rauf teaches us. All these talents that we have, we can use it for the right purpose. We can use it in the right way. So I'm looking eagerly to do that now and actually, be proud of myself and the things that I'm going to achieve in the future.
Okay, so far, if there's one thing that you have to take, if there's one thing that you have to take out of the program that you will hold on to for the rest of your life, what would it be?
The one thing that I would take is there's a tool, Uncle Ebi, that is one of the main tools that we use. For me, it's something everybody does, Uncle Ebi. You think, but the power of introspection,
Subhanallah.
the power of sitting down and actually going through, ticking through what you've done, how you've affected people, and what state you were in when you were doing it is a very important tool, because I've seen it in other people. I've seen them do it without them knowing that they're doing it, and they have succeeded. My mother's a master of introspection, but she doesn't know that she's introspecting. You understand?
And it's a very, very great teaching of our Prophet, peace be upon him, muhasabah. Introspection is a very great practice.
It's a very good
We
practice.
it's something that you got to cultivate within yourself,
Yes.
to and make it a regular part of your life, so
Yes.
that it helps you to focus and think and do things correctly,
Yes.
moving on in your life.
And that's another thing that's very important. We all want to move on, and on this path we all want to do great things, but how are we going to do great things if we're not going to take the time to actually sit down and plan or navigate how we're going to do these things or achieve these things? So introspection is one of them, and another one is just the love for myself. For the longest part, I can clearly see now that I didn't love myself. To take drugs, not fulfill my responsibilities as a father, as a son, as a husband. Those are things that clearly show you that I didn't love myself. Now I'm loving myself. I got home, they say I'm looking kind of buff. I must just go to the gym and so forth. It makes me smile. It makes me feel good inside. So that's one thing that I'm
Because I
really...
saw when you came in the early days, you looked like there was no hope in you. You were
True.
not in a good space. You were
True.
not very comfortable. We could see it.
True.
But now it's just good to see this bubbly person.
Yes.
We can see that you're applying all the tools. You can see that
Yes.
now you're digesting the program. You're embracing the program. You're processing it. You're acting upon it. It's becoming a way of life.
Yes.
And of course, if you don't, you know the thing to do going forward. You got to keep feeding it, and that is why we have these support groups throughout the country, so that you can access them anytime. And if you are in a faraway place where you can't get your support, then you zoom into our program. But it has to be a regular feature in your recovery, because when you go down this path of addiction, you cut pathways, in your mindset.
Yes, that's true.
And to close those roads are very difficult.
Yes.
The only way you can stop yourself from going down the wrong path is
Regular.
irregular reminder and introspection and continuous, looking at yourself and working on your emotions, keeping your emotions under control. This it doesn't take you for a ride. These are the things that you need to apply. And I can see that you are starting to apply all these things, and I can see it in the program. I can see it while she does. Moving on, you need to continue with what you're doing, and who knows, maybe you'll become one of our role models, our ambassadors in Johannesburg.
Hopefully, Uncle Ebi. And something that I know for myself is that I've always been a leader. but understanding and an appreciation for this program has just, uncaged that leader in me. You understand? But there's one question that I want to ask you, Uncle EB, and it's a very important question
Hope we
because
got a tricky one.
it's a very important question because I really like to see people achieve their goals. So for you, so many years down the line, helping people and actually giving back to the community, how would you say it makes you feel to see, success stories and people who are actually appreciating and holding on to the program? How does that make you feel?
The only thing that comes to mind is gratitude to our Creator.
Mm,
Because there's two things that's very important: hukukullah and hukukulibat, service to your Creator and service to humanity. And we put a lot of emphasis on prayer, praying to our Creator. But the other very important aspect is service to humanity. You got to be a humanitarian, be a human being before you before you pray to God.
Yes.
And the thing is, when you see other people suffering and what they're going through, to walk away from it, it's so painful. But I feel fulfilled, I feel accomplished, I feel satisfied, I feel happy. And it gives me the sense of, that if I have to drop dead tomorrow,
you would have.
I'm quite content.
Okay.
That I thank our Creator for using us. It is an honor. We thank our Creator. It's not us. It's our Creator. It's our God that puts that into us. And you know what? Without God's guidance and mercy, we can't do it. So to me, it's a great favor from our Creator onto us, which we hold to dearly. We cherish it with love. And of course, when you see a success and when you see them going out there and living a happy, beautiful, successful life, is the best high you could ever get.
Yeah, that's
I always
true.
say this: there's no better high than seeing a success, making a real success of his life. And that's really an inspiration for us. That is our payment. That is our payment. That is, you are actually making a contribution, because when we see successes, we get motivated, we get inspired, we get driven to continue the
continue.
work, because the success is what brings. And of course, with the relapse rate, and of course, in addiction, the general success rate is 0 to 2%. And we have looked, through the grace of God, we have a very good success rate. But every success is an inspiration for us. The down, you probably heard of some of the failures that we've had.
Yeah, no, I have.
That we've had some debts that from some of the people that were with you in the program that have passed on. It's just, this is a life and death thing. And it's quite hard on us. I mean, just today we're sitting, we lost one of our facilitators. He wasn't a Muslim, but he was my brother. He stood with us. We worked together as a team. And the thing is, when you see all these things, it's really, when you see a success and you look at all the negativity that goes with the work, it's not an easy thing.
not an easy
That it's a
thing,
challenge. What happened in our fasting month. It's another silly season, because silly season in Christmas, you can keep the devil away. But in Ramadan, the devil is tied.
He's tied up.
So
It's just the nafs.
who is the problem? What is it? What is it?
It's the nafs.
It's the nafs. So it's now when the egos, the ego is a bigger challenge than the devil, because the ego.
The ego has you going. It wants to reaffirm itself.
You saw in our program, some of them have never fasted in their
That's
entire
true.
lives. Now you ask them to fast, they don't want to do it, and
They
it's
don't
a
wanna
challenge,
do it.
because you come in there, it's a command, you've got to obey it. So you've seen how the nafs is troubling us in this month of Ramadan. So it gives you a good thing. But the thing is, even now, what an inspiration. In Ramadan, we've had the entire Taraweeh and all our facility was conducted by recoveries. And some of them have not read the Quran for years, but now they've gone back, learned the Quran, and they're now performing Taraweeh, which is a good thing.
It's a very beautiful thing, because also, just speaking on my behalf, which is also one of the last points that I like to stress, it really stresses the factor of, yes, you are as an organization extending a helping hand, but if we really want the help, we also have to come to the pot and play.
Exactly.
We have to surrender ourselves and be willing to receive that change. If we can't surrender, then we are at a point where you guys are putting in more effort and we just going there. We're not meeting you halfway.
We've got to give 100%.
100%.
We've got to give 100%. This is not about making money or a business.
that's
This is
true.
about saving lives. You cannot put a price to this.
That's
I can see our Mohammed Binti wants to say something, but I think let's stick with the one interview. We cannot do two. it will bring an injustice to Samir. So Samir can come in, and I must apologize to the listeners. I was supposed to bring in a female today, but for obvious reasons, we decided against it. We probably bring them in next week in a close-up environment. Okay, Mohammed, you were saying something.
Yes, I'd like to, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Such a beautiful environment over here. Families spending time together, shopping for Eid, enjoying the last days of Ramadan. And there is another sad reality out there. I just want to touch on the reality of Ramadan and Eid as a drug addict. And from personal experience, there wasn't many Ramadans in my life where I actually felt spirituality, understood what Ramadan was about. And that was because the other 11 months of the year, I was engaged in activities like taking drugs and everything else that comes with it. And and in Ramadan, well, as a drug addict, maybe I managed to not use, but on the last day of Ramadan, much like when I look at the reality of the families over here, the Eid Milan, spending time together, and I think about my last days of Ramadan, especially the last day when it was all about buying the drug, chasing the high, wanting it all over again, missing shaitan, missing the feeling of the drug. And so even before the sun has set, even before the moon has been sighted for Eid day, my routine was going to the merchant, buying the marijuana, the weed, rolling the scaife, buying the cocaine, and even in anticipation of Ramadan ending. And then comes Eid night, families, all the youngsters at the barber getting their haircut and so on and so forth. And what I used to do, sit outside the barber, wait to the end of the night doing drugs. That's immediately after Ramadan. So for me, I think one of the things that I really learned, one of the things that I hold dear to me, especially in this month of Ramadan here at RAUF, is how the routine, the understanding, the motivation, the advices that were given to us every day to bring about this love for Deen, this love for Ramadan, the understanding that how we can capitalize and use this month of Ramadan to actually atone, to make penance, to pay back for all the wrong that we did, and especially how I can the one thing I take out of these last 3 years is how I can live my everyday coming from the month of Ramadan, out of Ramadan, as if it is a day in Ramadan. And Alhamdulillah, I have only, this program to thank for the support that I found, the morning programs that we have, our Durud program, and our Zikr programs, and the advices to thank for, this turnaround, this change of heart within me, Alhamdulillah.
Mohammed Binti, we've got winners here, but Alhamdulillah. The first winner, remember the two questions? The first winner is Tasneem Khan, although her second answer was incorrect, but yes, it's happening at the Westwood Mall, and the entrance is 10 Rand. Today is the last day, so don't delay and join us here for the amazing specials. The second winner is Roha Katrada. Both the answers were correct, Alhamdulillah. Both the listeners want beautiful ombre scarves sponsored by Exclusive Hijab. Come down to the Eid Milan at Westwood Mall and check more for more amazing specials. A big thank you to Exclusive Hijabs. Thank you. And of course, we'd like to congratulate our two lucky winners. Moving back very quickly to our discussion, Mohammed, you touched on something which is very important. That's coming. I mean, Eid is coming, and of course, a lot of them will want to celebrate on Eid night. They'll not even wait for Eid day, like you say. And yes, I've seen it. Over the years, you'll find them that they'll go clean for Ramadan. At the time of iftar, they go back onto the drugs. They'll fast for the whole day, but then they start drugging again, and that's when you hear of some crazy things happening. But then Eid day, tell us some of the things that you've experienced, coming from addiction.
Yeah, I think Eid Day is a day for family, much like all of Ramadan, and But as addicts, we always looking for the excuse, and for me, it was always finding some reason to not spend the day with my family. And although they always used to encourage me, motivate me, and like stay at home, it's a family, it's family time, it's Eid day, all the family are over from everywhere. I always look for the excuse to be out with my friends. So it was like Eid Salah and breakfast, and then out with the friends, doing drugs the entire day, coming back, spending 10 minutes lunchtime, and doing the same thing. And over the years, it took a toll on my family. One of the talking points about addiction was how addiction has taken me so far away that I don't even feel comfortable spending Eid with my family anymore. And that's the reality of drugs. As a person who has been in addiction for 11 years, I think that one of the greatest downsides to addiction is the lack of care, empathy, and love for your family. That's what it breeds. And in its place, because you don't have any explanation, any answer for why you feel this way, I began developing these excuses, finding fault with them, blaming them for things, which I should never have, and actually putting myself in a place where I felt resentment towards my family. And I made excuses like, no, this uncle's always judging me. Why should I be with him? He's like this, he's like that, she's like this, she's like that. I don't want to spend time with them. But in hindsight, I realized that I really, really gave up the most beautiful thing in the most beautiful month and on the most beautiful days, and that was family. And I gave that up all in substitution for the drug. And it's something which, through introspection, I've come to understand was one of the greatest downsides in life.
Okay, listeners, we will be going off air at 2 o'clock, but we will continue at the Westwood Mall. You can listen to our program at the Westwood Mall. We still be live. We've got one more interview to do, which is also quite an inspiring story. So we will be going off air. We'll be going off the radio at 2 o'clock, but we'll be continuing with our program at the Westwood Mall. So I think we have some time, Mohammed. We're fortunate that we've given a bit more time.
I just want to, sorry, Uncle Evie, to cut you. I just want to ask Samir. So Samir is our graphic designer. He's been preparing us pamphlets, the Ramadan pamphlets that we will be handing out. So I just want to ask him in terms of the Ramadan, festivities.
Okay. I'm the interviewer. You are the interviewee.
Sorry, Uncle Evie. Sorry.
Okay. No, I will come to that one.
No.
He's a graphic designer. So can we maybe, before we go further, we just get Samir in,
Okay.
and we'll continue with Samir.
Yeah. Samir.
But I like the way you do things. I can see professionalism, and I can see that this man is a media chap. Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Samir, very quickly, we've known you for many years. I've known you for many years. I remember you with us. We had you with us 20 years ago, and you walked away from the program. Your mommy was alive at that time. I came to your house, spoke to your mom, and you refused the help. So take us through from the early days when you were in the program and you walked out. Tell us what happened and just give us some brief information as how this entire life of addiction started and how it progressed and where it is now. But before we go further, we are offering, RAUF is giving out handbills, RAUF handbills here. So if anybody needs any information about RAUF, the handbills will be distributed by our very good, responsible gentleman here at the entrance to the Eid Miran. Feel free to take one, please. You never know when you may need it. It's educational, it's empowering. Remember, it doesn't mean that you don't have a drug. If you don't have a drug problem in your house, you're okay. There could be other forms of addiction. There could be porn. There could be social media. There could be the various other types of addiction that you could be sitting with, or potential addiction that you could be sitting with. So please don't take this thing lightly. We should rather become proactive than reactive. And a proactive parent will take the necessary steps to ensure that this thing, we all have this thing. It don't happen in my house. But at RAUF, we were sitting this year with 10 hufas. So yes, they went, and sadly, we have ulamas in our program. Now, you would not expect this, but our understanding of spirituality is how well you can read and how well you can talk. We don't necessarily put effort on amal, on character. You find that we would make them into hafiz and molanas, we would make them, or whatever profession, but the character is not there. The arrogance is there. So, and as long as we don't, inculcate or work towards cultivating good emotional intelligence, what does it make us as parents? We judge a good child by his qualifications, not by his character. And we should start looking at character EQ more than IQ. We put emphasis on IQ, a piece of paper, whatever, professional. But the EQ, the emotional intelligence is almost, and if you look at Duduzo, your case, very similar thing, professional, but the EQ wasn't there. And now we'll talk about that little later, inshallah. Okay, Samir.
Okay, it's my honor and heartfelt thanks to Radio Al Ansar. It's my privilege to address everyone today. So, like you heard from Uncle Ibi, my name is Samir Ibrahim. I'm from Durban. I'm going to tell you about my life of addiction and where it started and where I am today. So, I had a pretty normal upbringing. Did very well in school, both parents, excelled in sports, swimming, karate, soccer. I did the whole shebang. Um, but the problem was I was introduced to drugs at a very young age. I was exposed to it. I was exposed to this lifestyle by a very close family friend and also family, which also didn't pose well for myself because it took me away from understanding what was important for me at the time in life. I had all the potential, but I was slowly drifting away. Things took a drastic change. My parents got divorced and I had to relocate. I lost a father figure in my life, which was something that I see now that I really needed at the time. So from there, I managed to finish school, but at the time, the drug addiction just progressed. So I started with Dhaka in high school. Soon, very quickly, got to Mandrax, even into a stage where I was selling and dealing Mandrax in school. I was influencing other individuals, corrupting their lives, corrupting my life, my family's life, putting untold stress on my family. At that time, my mother was diagnosed with lupus, with a severe case of lupus. And within 6 months, she had lost her feet and the tips of her fingers, and she was reduced to a wheelchair. Even with all this going on, I was so blind by the drugs that I couldn't see that what was happening in front of me. But Shukr Alhamdulillah, somehow I managed to finish high school with the help of my auntie who has been there for me since day one. She's like my auntie, my sister, my mother, all in one. And it's also my pillar of strength now when I'm in the
Caregiver as
program.
well.
Gee. So yeah, finished high school, got a good pass, got accepted to studied, got involved with the law a lot, a lot. It was like every year I'm getting locked up. So it didn't bode well for my career going forward as well. But somehow still managed to complete with very good pass, with distinctions in my field in graphic design and media design and technology. But yeah, the addiction I just kept going further and
Progressed.
further down the rabbit hole, further and further, where you couldn't see anything at all. So yeah, finished studying, started working, but then it got to heroin and crack cocaine. And then my mother could see, things is really going out of control.
20 years ago, if we heard about crack cocaine, we would not want to take on their case because there was no hope for them. But Alhamdulillah, 20 years later, we have a program. It's a long program. That's why these programs are long. It's to take you through the full run. And if you see cocaine now, most of our cases are cocaine or crack cocaine. And, we have a program for that.
So yeah, just to continue, I did attend to my mother got help, sought help for me. I went to a few other rehabs, but didn't bode well. I didn't stay for long, and then I got to RAUF eventually. Went to the program, became an inpatient, stayed, but then didn't hold on to the hand of guidance. I left the program. I maybe at that stage I was too young, or I'm using that as an excuse. I wasn't mature enough, but I didn't understand. I didn't have a greater picture of what was in store should I leave the hand of guidance. And it took me, how many about 20 years, Uncle Ibi, to come back and return
20
to the
years
program.
later, you have absconded. I remember your mom was in a wheelchair, and then we spoke to her, and she said, he doesn't want to come, there's nothing I can do. And we walked away, and then we see you 20 years later in a terrible state. It was quite bad. It was very bad. Duduzo, you remember that when he came back? Yes.
So yeah, caught a real hiding outside
I mean, with drugs, taking
with
drugs.
drugs.
Please, because people may misinterpret that Raul gave you hiding.
No. Yeah, my life. Okay, in that time also, found the love of my life, married, had a child, was doing very well, but still on and off with addiction, going to this rehab, coming out, staying 1 year clean, this year clean, but still always going out. And like I told you, Uncle Levy, before, I didn't feel that contentment. So I'm a graphic designer. I'm like one of the top rated, in top 10 in South Africa at one stage.
Alhamdulillah.
And yeah, had one of the best jobs in Durban for my field. Had the money, had the car, had the house, had the family, but there was no contentment. I always felt like something was missing.
Yes.
Something was missing, and I had this.
Because have you experienced that?
I've experienced something to that extent where you feel like something is always missing and you're never content. So I know exactly what Samir is talking about. After working with so many companies, having the money and the children, but something is always missing.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it also brings a sense of what is my purpose, and like what is my purpose, what is my greater purpose. And I always had that false sense, like everything's gonna go just now, because of my experience in the life. It always felt like fake somewhat. It was just
Living a false life.
snatched away from me, and yeah, and it did. It's very hard to pull this swallow, but I haven't seen my family, my wife and my son for a while now. I had to forcibly leave the place that I built. I only lived there, I think, maybe 2 or 3 months. And same, the house that I built, I had to leave. Left the car. I had to leave my wife and son. It came to a stage where my son would face his palm towards me and say, "Dad, I can't speak to you." It broke my heart as well, one of my turning points. Anyway, I ended up on the street, and I don't know what to do. So I reached out to my auntie, who was still making the time, putting the effort to come and look after me, give me food. And I ended up staying on the side of the street,
Living on the street.
living on the streets for a couple of months until I attended that program. And I don't know, through the will of the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I accepted and I got admitted into the program the same day. Because I remember Uncle Ibi told me, "You look like you got mold on your face." And he was 100% correct. Had I not come in, probably in that same night or the next day, I would probably commit suicide.
So that you're on the brink of suicide.
I was on the brink of suicide.
And we saw that. We saw that.
Jay, he saw right through me.
We saw
Right
that, and
on.
then we made this special arrangement for you.
Yeah.
You had given up. You had totally given up on life, and you
It's
had committed to. We could see that you just looked blank, as though nothing mattered anymore.
nothing. Because I was doing things that I never thought or never ever did myself in addiction before. Robbing people, hurting people, hurting my
I would
family.
never thought that you would do such things. You don't come across as somebody like that.
Exactly.
But drugs, you can do anything.
True. The level that you will steep to, and the lines, your boundaries that you will cross, is unimaginable.
Yeah, and both of you, to think about it, both of you all have had good careers, good professions, had everything going. And I didn't plan this, by the way. I was going to bring in the females today, but then, because the open forum, we thought it would be not be fitting to have the girls sitting here, So we said, no, we'll do that next week in the studio. But just, Allah plans these things. That both of you all, it's not somebody that came from a difficult upbringing. You all had everything.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the parent would come to us and say, but I've given my child everything. What is wrong with him? He broke my heart. I've given him everything. We said, but did you give him the most precious thing? And they all look surprised. Did you give him your time? Did you give him quality time? We're too busy to talk, so we give him the phone. Even when the child comes crying, give him the phone to keep him quiet. Or when he comes from school, he's got his phone. You don't interfere with him. He's got his own private space. He goes onto his phone. But what is he watching on that phone? What is he engaging? So, our understanding of giving the child everything is material things. But the one very valuable thing, the one that's priceless is time. Wal asr, by the token of time, man is at a loss except for those who are righteous. So that's telling us about time. There's a surah that's named, it's time, wal asr, by the token of time. So time is so significant. And our thing is, then they always say this. And sometimes it gets to me. I've given him everything. The one chap comes there with a brand new BMW. He comes there, he drives into the center with his son, his 18-year-old son, drives the top of the range BMW, got a beautiful cell phone, and he said, you know what? I can't get my son out of the car. He's high as a kite, and he wouldn't get out of the car. So now we got to get him out of the car. So said to the dad, listen, can I see your son? To go out there, speak to him. And this youngster very willingly got out of the car and we started conversing. And I said, Dad, just leave him here with me and go. That boy is 14 years old. So the thing is, we as parents, our thing is, and I'm sorry, as much as we blame the children, parents are very quick to, hey, my son is not right. How have you contributed? And you say, but I've taught him Salah. I mean, in Muhammad's case, he came from a very good Islamic background where Salah, he went to an ulum, he became a Hafiz al-Quran, he became a professional, a pharmacist, and yet he had everything you would not expect. I'm sure your dad must have been totally shocked. But the thing is, he ended up going down the road of addiction. So we think that we are going to guarantee it, that he will not take drugs because, we did all the right things. But the next question, what did you tell him about addiction? Did you empower him about the challenges? You're sending him to school. He goes into a school. He is a little lamb. He walks into school. He is vulnerable. He knows nothing about drugs. And here this kid comes to him and he gives him the Xanax. Hey, give me $3. So just try this thing. So what happens? The kid knows nothing about it. So we are feeding our innocent children to addiction by allowing them to go into all these places where there's drugs. There's drugs everywhere. You can't run away from it, but you can empower your child. And these are the shortcomings we are seeing amongst parents. We do not give them quality time, and there's no education and empowerment. When COVID came, we did everything to educate our children. We had to do a crash course on social distancing, and we had to do a crash course on what to eat and what not to eat and where to go and where not to go. Overnight, the whole country stood together. And yet, we lost 100,000, a lot of people. But compare that to the number of lives you lost to addiction. Going to millions. But what preparation have we made? What are we waiting for? We all have this expectation it will never happen in my house. And when it happens, the family goes into shock and denial. By the time they come out of shock and denial, these guys graduated to a point of no return. So the sooner the family, and that's what happened in Samir's case. Your mom, at least, your mother came in and she, reasonably quick, and she did. His mom, she was gone and he was left to his devices. So he had pushed the boundaries to a point of almost no return, because the day when he walked in, it was suicide. I'm hearing it now the first time that he said this, but we could see it. And that's the first time it's coming from him, And that was the night we said, this chap here cannot go. We got to hold him. And then what happened after Samir?
Yeah. Then I came into the program, followed the normal protocols, got sent to the farm. But still, I came in with a very serious health problem.
You were quite
Very
sick.
serious,
You were
very
quite
serious.
sick. You were very ill.
So prior to that, 6 months before, or like a few months before that, I did have TB. I contracted through smoking or my work, because I was at the ports a lot of the time. And then after that TB infection, okay, I got over it, but it was just chest infection, immune deficiency.
The immune was very low. Immune was bad.
Very bad, very bad. Okay, went through the process. Still didn't want to see the light.
We took you to the hospital.
They put me into the hospital. I left the hospital to go for discharge. Went out.
Went back on the streets. Came back. Brought back in. Went back in.
Went back. Yeah.
All this happened in a few days.
Yeah, within, I think, the space of 4 days.
4 or 5 days. He went out about 3 times and he came back. But we didn't give up on him. And then the auntie said, you know what? There's nothing we can do. This guy is beyond help. We just got to get ready to bury him. He was on his way out. So through some miraculous way, he came back. Alhamdulillah. Allah had better plans for you.
Subhanallah.
Okay. So take us through your recovery program.
Yeah. So back, long story short, I could give you all the juicy details. Back at the farm, and something changed. I think that night before I could come back on my own, I had a dream about my son. Again, that image I can't get out of my head now, where he turned and says that I can't speak to you.
That was the That was a shock therapy that,
Yeah.
that really
Shock
probably did something to you.
That really ignited something in me to come back to the farm. Came back to the farm, totally surrendered. From day one, back into the farm, surrendered. Back straight into the program. Embraced everything of the program. Took everything like a sponge. And I will not, maybe like two sponges. I took everything in. And alhamdulillah, I completed my stay at the farm, helped oversee the farm, came to the center. And I've learned so much. It's broadened my horizons so much. Even in the terms of now, my work, I start seeing it as I am Rauf now. I'm treating it like that. How would I design? How would I be Rauf? How would I do incorporate into my design? And one thing I've understand is that recovery is a lifestyle for me from this point forward. Shukran.
You came from a point of no return. Alhamdulillah. We thank Allah for that. But it's such an inspiration to hear, and a lot of them, we had the Hafiz al Quran that had committed suicide through addiction, in the month of Ramadan. So it's quite alarming. It's quite concerning. And the thing is, if we as family, if we don't take the necessary step, I mean, if you know your child is getting wasted, well, what are you waiting for? Reach out. You rather fail, or you rather try. Keep trying rather than giving up and saying, if you really love your child, you go out of it, you will not leave them in that condition to live like that. And I think that's what we need to get across to our parents, that if you really love your child, would you walk away from them when they're drowning? No. This is worse than drowning. This is they're destroying themselves, they're gonna torture themselves here, and it's gonna be a bad hereafter. Drowning, you can become a shaheed. But with drugs, where you think you're going to have a miserable death and a miserable life hereafter. So we need to understand these things, that we need to see these things. And sometimes, I say that the parents have egos at times. And they don't want to be there because what would the people say? They worry more about what the people will say.
Yeah, Uncle Bibi, you're 100% correct. Even when we are handing out pamphlets and giving talks, giving advice to people are more worried about their image. You want to say, I don't have this problem. But you could have, you don't even know. Maybe you could have this problem. Maybe you might know someone that does have this problem. I'm sure Nduduzo can agree with me. You say we don't plan this. But this thing has been heavily on my mind this past week. What am I going to do when I am put in a situation to take care of my son? What am I going to teach him? How I'm going to make sure that he doesn't go down the same road that I went. So you're 100% right. We do not highlight this. We do not outline this to our children.
Educate,
We just give
empower,
them like a
prepare
terminology.
them.
Stay away from it. We do not put the time in.
Educate them, let them understand how difficult it is to get out of it. It may seem very easy, but getting out, how painful it is and how difficult it is. And sometimes it's an absolute no-win situation. So we need to understand that it's a life and death thing. This sometimes there's almost no hope. The success rate is 0 to. I've been to a rehab center and I asked the chap, tell me what's your success rate? Success rate. Over a cup of tea, we're chatting. What's your success rate? And the one chap said, if you get one out of in a year, one success every year, you're doing well. Who wants to work for one success every year? That is why the program is long, because it allows us to do a proper job, because you're playing with people's lives. This is not about making money. This is about saving lives. You're saving people's lives. It's beyond money. It's beyond the name and the fame and the glory. This is about life and death. We need to understand that, and that is why you got to give it your everything. Your everything, because when you all come to us, you always sent to us it's through God's mercy. And when you all come to us, then we are responsible for your well-being. We have to ensure that we do justice while you're there, to ensure that you'll, leave that place fully empowered, ready to take on the challenge that may present itself. Moving on. Duduzo, now I think you can be the interviewer. You can speak to Samir.
Sorry, Uncle Ibi. I just wanted to ask Samir, in terms of the, your profession as a whole, and we were speaking about Ramadan earlier on, and you've designed our Ramadan pamphlets, and I just wanted you to share with the listeners and with everybody here, how has RAUF's mission and statement been included in the pamphlet and showcased on what Ramadan is about?
Okay, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah, we're creating awareness around the social ills that's facing our youngsters nowadays. The peer pressure, the bullying, the LGBTQ situation. And it's also highlighting that we need to start at a very young age and we need to be persistent on this matter of taking care of our children and pointing them in the direction and then being a guiding light to them.
So would you say that RAUF as an organization is taking a stance in early detection, making sure that people are aware of what's happening within our communities?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. Even with our awarenesses, we're doing it at very young primary schools. And yeah, it's aimed at early detection and prevention.
So good to hear two recovery speaking about the RAUF mission and how we're going to make our work. It's so inspiring.
Thank you, Uncle Ibi. You know why I'm asking these questions? Because, as you said, it's now recovery is a lifestyle now. We have to embody our recovery within everything that we do. And I'm sure that Mohammed Minty can come into the conversation with this. Being a longer recovery, can you at least share with some of the things that you've learned in terms of how it is that recoveries can have the best outcome?
I think Samir said it. He said recovery is a lifestyle. And we have one very long-standing recovery by the name of Faisal Pirbai at the center. And Faisal Pirbai always mentions that a good recovery is a happy recovery. And I think for such a long time, we were such empty individuals, filled with such negative emotions for most of the day, most of the week, most of the month, except when we hit that hit. And not even the entire session or the entire binge, it was just that first hit. And that first hit brought some sense of fulfillment, false, of course, some sense of euphoria. I mean, that was because of the chemical imbalance. It brought some substance for that few seconds into our life, so-called something so delusional. And coming into RAUF, it wasn't easy. I think we worked very hard. And it's not the things that we used to doing. And it either makes you or it breaks you. And in my many years here, I've seen many who have been broken by it. Many have ran away, who haven't returned. But I see so many around me who it has made them. There are two Suhails. They are my inspirations. One Suhail is over 12 years clean. The other one is about 8 years clean. And when I look at them and I see that they found happiness and a sense of purpose in the difficulty, they understand that being in recovery is not easy going. That every day having to think about your every move, having to restrict yourself from going to places, having to be with somebody all the time is not easy, because it seems like our freedoms are being taken away. But the more we speak about this, the more we understand. I think in the last show, Uncle Ibi spoke about our 3 circles of protection. The first one is our internal circle of protection. The second one is our family. And the third one is the organization itself, RAUF. And when I look at it, I see a 4th circle of protection. And I think that is the public, that we shouldn't be shy to say who we are. We should be happy in our reality that I am an addict. I am an addict in recovery. I was an addict. I did unspeakable things. And I don't ever want to go back there again. And so, yes, my family helped me. I need to help myself. The organization would help me. But every person out there, if you're aware of my reality, you can help me too.
Yes.
And to confront that and to publicize that and to actually be open with that, I have to find happiness.
Yeah, but you're not doing it in a boastful way. You're not doing it where you're glorifying it. You're doing it where you're coming clean. You're being honest. You're expressing this is who you are. So that other people can learn from your mistakes. Sometimes, the people, when you talk about this, and we had an incident where some of the ulama were having a problem with it, where they said, we're glorifying it. How can you glorify something that is so painful? It's only misery. Addiction is only misery. There's no peace. It just brings you to a point where you become a total invalid with all your qualifications, with all. I mean, we're sitting with ulama, we're sitting with hufaz, with qurras, we're sitting with qualified people, engineers, doctors. We're sitting. Now, the thing is, it has brought them right down. So, sometimes and sometimes when we go into the public platforms and talk about these things, they perceive it or they receive it as though it is, hey, these guys are glorifying it, they're macho. It's nothing. This is misery. And it's good that you talk about it, because by talking about it, it helps. The one day I was sitting on the radio running a program at Al Ansar, and I see, as I finish my program, I see a doctor walks into the studio. I've got a problem, I need help. And I was taken aback. This doctor got the help and he's now moved on and he's become a successful person. So the thing is, what got him there? What got him there? He heard the interview and he felt hope and he saw hope.
Because we're talking about
exactly the two of you had given up. You were suicidal, but now you all are fully well-rounded, focused, distinguished. You are making a name for yourselves. I mean, you just interviewed Samir and the beautiful work that he's doing. I never realized the man is so talented, And also you, Miruzo, I never thought you were so. I mean, we've sent you to schools and you've been so productive, so inspiring, that the children didn't want to leave you when you were growing up.
Yeah, that's true.
To get the attention of children in a school environment, they're very rowdy. To have them all singing and clapping with you tells you that you'll have, you've got the ability to keep the, people motivated. So this is why we say we should take inspiration. We should learn lessons. Parents should not block their ears when they hear this and find some excuse to walk away from it. They should find every reason to listen to these interviews, educate, empower themselves, because we always think it's happening there.
Not sure. Always
And
there.
we've had this on numerous occasions. The chap will bring his staff. He brings his staff to test him for drugs. And then we tell him, but you know what? One of our recovery, hey, I know his son is on drugs as well. Tell him about it. So you tell that, Dad, let's test your son. He said, no, man, he doesn't have a drug problem. So let's test him. And you find that the son is on drugs. Half is the Quran. It looks very ordinary. Everything looks okay. But he's a drug addict. So that is why we are saying we need to understand that. Addiction, we always see it happening in somebody else's house, but not our house. Because we believe it will never happen. Why? Because you are the best parent. You have given your child the best education. You have given him everything. But ask yourself, if you and I think that we are good parents, ask ourselves, the drug problem, what are the statistics in the country? You can tell us about the rand dollar. Tell us about the drug statistics. Tell us how serious the problem is. Tell us how it's affecting your community. Tell us what is the drug of choice in your community. Tell us whether if anybody, what are the symptoms? If you cannot answer this question, that makes you not a bad parent, it makes you a weak parent, because you're living in an environment, in a country that, in this country now, with some of the drugs, South Africa is the hub. It has now become the hub of Durban in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa has now become the hub. So what are you waiting for? What are we waiting for? COVID. Imagine knowing COVID everywhere and walking without taking any precautions. What is going to happen to you? The same thing, addiction. Imagine addiction everywhere, not taking the precautions. What is going to happen to you? So we need to understand these awarenesses that Muhammad is talking about is a critical part of the program. Because whilst we got reactive measures in dealing with addiction, we need to have proactive measures to prevent addiction. And awareness is what does that.
Uncle Ibi, I think in order to reach the point where we Nduduzo, Samir, and all of us, where we can go out and actually speak about these things and who we were, it takes a lot of strength. And I think that strength comes from just being comfortable with who you are. And loving the changes that are happening and seeing value. I heard one of our very long-term recoveries, 25 years clean. His dad is always at the center, and he's telling us, and I found this shocking, but when I thought about it, he's telling us that the best thing that could happen to me and my family is uh, his son taking drugs. And I asked him, why is it like this? He says, because I found a sense of purpose. I found such happiness and such closeness with my family. Today I can give back, and he is serving RAUF. And and he says that how the program has helped him grow as a parent and has helped his son grow, and all the good values and morals it brought within them. And that's the same thing for us. We as difficult as it gets and as hard as it is to break down our egos, our nafs, and that's the baseline of this program, is to break down the arrogance within us. And I came from a background where I'm a professional, a pharmacist, and where I thought I'm gonna clean toilets, weed the fields, and so on and so forth, wash pots for the feeding scheme. And I came here, and with lots of difficulty initially and with lots of negative thinking, I did these things. But with time, as I grew to love the program and I understand what this has did for me, I even love those moments where, they say that, there's one line I think about, and I always say is like, I thought I cleaned the toilets, but it's the toilets that clean me. And that's the truth. As much as we did these difficult things, these difficult things is what purified us. It purified our hearts. And Alhamdulillah, I'm happy today. There are downsides, unfortunately, because of my negative perceptions towards my family, which I was speaking about earlier. I've now reached a point where I find it very difficult to interact with my family, and with time, that too will come about. But for the most part, I'm only thankful for everything that, for where I am today, for everything that this organization has done for me, and for actually putting me through the difficulty. Because today, I can say that I'm on my way to becoming a well-rounded individual, and an individual that understands physicality, what my role is in this world, what I need to do to earn for my family, and then mentality too, how I need to think, how I need to perceive people, how I need to perceive my environment, emotionally also, that I should always act out in a way which doesn't hurt the next person. And when I do that, I'll be happy myself, and everybody around me will be happy. And it is these life lessons which I hold dear to me more than any challenge which I might think I am experiencing as a recovery.
When you speak on that, Mohammed Minty, I just want to share a few things. It brings about a call to action that I'd like to speak about. I'd like to have a call to action that says, let's continue to be positive role models in our community. Because even when I think about it now, with all of our brothers in the center right now, I'd like for them to continue trying and carry on and striving on this path, because eventually they will be positive, role models within the community. Because when you are becoming this well-rounded person, when you are becoming a person that can control your emotions, have a grasp on what you react to, you can clearly see what is wrong within our communities. However, when you stuck inside this, cling with substance abuse, and like we couldn't see that we were, contributing to the negative of the many communities that we were impacting. So I'd like to have this call to action to the listeners, to everybody affiliated with RAUF, and with everybody at the center and the farm, to continue to strive and carry on in this path.
Okay, and Mohammed spoke about the parent that said the best thing that happened that my son took drugs. That parent said that because the way that son has changed, he was better than the son that was better than when he was before he got into drugs. So the program has changed him so much so that it was actually a joy. This individual, he was the only son, and his recovery had grown to such an extent that if he was having a meal, and because he was the only son, he wants to be sitting between his mother and father, not sitting across them, but in between them, and says, "I'm your son. I want to be with you all. I want to eat between you all." And this is how, his dad, when he passed, he said, I'm proud, just before his dad could pass on, I'm proud to have a son like this. So sometimes, as ugly as it may be, if the parent embraces the program and stick to this and have faith and work hard, not just putting the, we have this thing. Our understanding of rehabilitation is you put him in rehab, he comes out, he's happily ever after. There is no cure. It is you got to change the way you deal with him for him to change the way he lives his life. So if you're going to maintain the same attitude that you had before he got onto drugs or whilst you were drugging, he's going to go back to where he came from. Because the change in addiction starts from the family. The family doesn't change, nothing will change. You can do what you like. Nothing is going to happen because we expect the change to happen in them. But the home environment hasn't changed. So what's going to happen? He's going to go back, fall into a comfort zone and stagnate, regress, relapse.
100%, I think you highlight something that's also been on my mind. Is that your family and your caregivers play a vital role to your recovery, and there's no such thing as a quick
They are the
fix.
main. We spoke about there's three what you call is rings. There's three lines of defense. The first defense that you have is you and the program and the tool that you've been taught to maintain your sobriety. There's about 30 or 40 topics that we would discuss where you would implement in your life that you would take home with you. These are your tools. That's your first line of defense. The second line of defense is your family who's empowered, who's looking at the problem for what it is and not what they think it is. So your second line of defense is your family. And if you break through that, the third line of defense is your aftercare program that RAUF offers you. So there are three rings around you before you fall. Now, if you do not have the family empowerment, you do not have a good aftercare program, and you only leave him to his drug and what he learned. We are human beings. We forget. Allah is giving azan 5 times a day that people are not getting to the musalla. So how is it that the person heard it once and follow for the rest of his life? No. You got to continuously remind them. And we are insan, we learn through repetition. You got to continuously repeat before we learn anything. So in sobriety, you have, if he loses his tools, he's got his family as a next stop to prevent the relapse. If the family lose their tools, through the support structure, we prevent it. And that's what gave us a good success rate. Where we're not putting everything in one basket. You've got other securities, other ways of guaranteeing and ensuring that this is going to be a successful case.
Uncle Libya, I can vouch personally that staying away from the support group was led to my downfall within my first stint at RAUF. So this time, support group, support structure, very important for me.
When it comes to the support groups and the support structure, I think that commitment is key. I think although I spoke about my family and my situation with my family, even though it was very difficult for my family to attend program in the initial stages. We live very far away from any RAUF program, and my mom was absolutely ill. She had cancer at that moment. RAUF made it possible for her to be in communication with the facilitators telephonically, and they became committed to the program. And I was still in addiction. I was still reveling in my misery. I was still doing everything. I didn't want to get any help. But they started learning the tools of the program. They started learning about codependency, about how they don't have to suffer emotionally because of what I'm doing, how they can learn how to deal with it so they don't suffer, about enabling how they don't have to take my nonsense anymore. They don't have to support me. I'm an adult. And denial that they shouldn't be shy. They shouldn't be afraid to confront this problem. They shouldn't feel stigmatized. And, why is it happening in our home? And when they took this to heart, and when they started applying the rules which RAUF has set out for caregivers, when they started, when they stopped enabling me, when they stopped feeding my habit, my addiction, I got put in a corner because drug addicts are cowards and we look for the easiest way out. And my easiest way out was manipulating my parents, extorting money from them, when I'm not in a good space emotionally, taking out my negative energy on them. And they put a stop to this. And so I had a decision to make. I had to decide that, okay, they have taken their stand. They are not going to tolerate me anymore. So I have two choices. The one is I leave this space and I lose them forever. Or the other is I accept the rules that they are setting, or accept that the consequences of my actions, and I accept it and I start listening. And there's a chance after all of the destruction that I will have them in my life still. And that decision I had, I was the cops were called home, and so much happened on one day. In November 2021, it's the most humiliating day of my mother's and my father's life, but it was the day which made me change my life. And the whole community was at home, and my mother in terminally ill, stage 4 cancer, in lots of pain in her bedroom, crying. The ladies of the community supporting her, the men of the community, giving my dad strength, me fighting everybody, fighting the police, throwing a tantrum in my house. That day it's very difficult for me to speak about. And then leaving the house subsequently and having 1 week, family, once again, the grace of my dad's first cousin, my cousin, they took me into their house, not wanting me to be out on the streets, but also not tolerating my nonsense, telling me, make your decision or you're out. And they gave me that buffer space, that 1 week where I had to decide. And in that 1 week, it was turmoil, caught on the streets. At the end of the day, I was craving the drug, craving the lifestyle, craving the emotions linked to the lifestyle. It was that, or, just pull a line, listen. And there was only one thing I had to do, and that was get in the bus and come to RAUF. And after this turmoil, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I can only be thankful to him. He just put peace in my heart, and he said, listen, just listen for once in your life. And shukr, alhamdulillah, 4 years later, today I renew my intention to continue listening to my parent, my dad. My mom has passed on, may Allah grant Jannah, to my dad and our facilitators and our caregivers and all of those who have been put in charge of my guidance, our director too. And listening has brought me happiness. So that's inshallah what I intend to do, what I plan to do. And no matter what decision is made for me, I renew my intention today that I will continue just listening.
I think we'll terminate at 3. We will not go beyond that in the next few minutes. I don't know whether you have anything that you would say. If there's a parent out there that's sitting with a problem, what advice can you give them?
If there is a parent there that is sitting with a problem, the best and suitable advice that I can give is that, firstly, there is always hope. You can always deal with the challenge that you're faced with, but you have to be willing to seek help. And being the time period that we're in, you have access to information. That's what programs like this are for. We are giving you and presenting you with the information. The best advice is to seek help, grab the information, and make sure that once you are given possible solutions, you are holding and grasping at that solution, because you never know when you can get another chance. That's what my parents have done. They are holding on to this solution. RAUF is the solution that they've been presented with, and they are holding on because they don't know when they can get another chance in order for me to fix my life. So that would be the best set of advice that I can give. And eventually, inshallah, if things do happen, you can always make it out of what you've been put through. Yeah, that's the best amount of advice I can give.
If there's a parent that's sitting that has a problem, what advice can you give them, Samir?
For me, communication is key. Put a relationship with your child. Well, I'm speaking from personal experiences. I didn't have a personal relationship with my parents. There was no real communication. So create that line of communication Be active in your child's life. Be willing to understand that they do have a problem and you do need to seek help. Because the level of denial in our community nowadays is unspeakable. We rather hide from the problems than face the problems. Honestly, from me, I feel that community has lost the sense of empathy and caring for one another. We need to take this problem on head on. We all know the seriousness of this problem in our community. We cannot play a blind eye to it anymore. We cannot plead ignorance. We have to take a stand for the interest of our own children and all the youth around us. Shukr.
Mohammed, maybe you can just tell the listeners about all the support groups throughout the country that they can go to. Their addresses, not so that if anybody needs help, they can access one of those programs. These are all free, by the way. All these programs are free.
Okay, so RAUF has 16 support groups across South Africa, and that happens every night of the week. Let's start with on a Monday night, we have a support group at the Muslim Burial Society in Pietermaritzburg, 69 Ellendale Drive. And then also in Newcastle at the Islamic College, corner of Kirkland and St. Dominic Street, every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. On Tuesdays, we have support groups at Masjid Aisha, 161 Grove End Drive, Stanmore Unit 17, that is in Phoenix, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. And then also on a Tuesday night, we have Port Shepstone, Marburg Islamic Center, that's next to the sports grounds on Protea Road, Tuesday evenings at 6:45 p.m. Then on Wednesdays, we have Escort, Fordeville Hall, 7 Kenner Avenue, Fordeville, every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Amzinto Town Hall, that is at Dumisa, 1077 Umgai Drive, every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. And then Chatsworth also happens on a Wednesday night at the Chisti Sabri Masjid, 157 Woodhurst Drive in Woodhurst, that is Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. And then our Stanger 2, Masjid al-Munawwar in the bottom hall in the basement of Masjid al-Munawwar. That is 20 North Street, extension 14 in Stanger, every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. And then our main program that is at the RAUF head office, that is at our main facility, 233 Spencer Road, Clare Estate, Durban. That is the program that all of us in this area will attend. And anybody who wants to get help, every Friday night at 7 p.m., that is at 233 Spencer Road, Clare Estate, Durban. These support groups, bear in mind, are for the addict as well as the caregiver. So the way RAUF support groups happen is that there are separate circles, support circles for the addicts with facilitators who are equipped to deal with addicts, as well as support groups for incoming parents as well as parents of patients. And then in Gauteng, we have support groups on Monday nights in Roshni, that is in the Vereniging area, Roshni Muslim School, 15 Baba Salam Street, every Monday evening at 7:45 p.m. And then on a Tuesday, it's in Benoni, that is on the East Rand, Basme Adab Hall, corner Lunat Street and Maya Drive, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. On Wednesdays, we have two support groups in Gauteng. The one is in Lenasia in Lens, Nurul Islam Hall, corner Zebra, and Oryx Avenue, extension 5, Wednesday nights at 8 p.m., as well as in Crosby, that is in central Johannesburg, close to Johannesburg town. That is at the RAUF premises, 53 California Street, Crosby, Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. And then in Cape Town, we have two programs. That is on a Tuesday night in Masjid al-Rawbi in Mitchell's Plain, Maryland Avenue, Portland, Mitchell's Plain, and on a Wednesday night at Shukrul Mubin Masjid, York Road, Lansdowne. That is every Wednesday night after Maghrib Salah. Remember, these programs are open to people of all faiths, people of all races, no discrimination, and it is highly encouraged that even if the addict is still in denial, even if the addict is still fighting the system, fighting you, does not want to get help, it is highly encouraged for our parents, our caregivers, our loved ones, siblings, wives, husbands, children, to attend these programs. Because the first step, remember, us as addicts, our entire mindset is warped, our perceptions are warped. So we are not thinking along the lines of getting help for ourselves. But as a caregiver, when you get empowered to help the addict, when you understand what measures to put in place, that's what happened for me. That's how it happened for me. Then when the rules are applied, it leaves us addicts with a choice to decide whether we want to listen or not. So give your loved one the opportunity to make the choice. Don't allow him to revel in his own misery.
Okay, I think we've said it all. We've come to the end of our show at the Westwood Mall. Remember those two? Okay, I'm sure they'll know where to get the scarves from. They're here, but the Al Ansar radio, Al Ansar cubicle. Okay, we've come to the end of our program. Until next week, inshallah, on Radio Al Ansar, we will be interviewing our female recoveries. And we have this thing about are the ladies taking drugs? So next week we'll interview some of them so that we'll have a better understanding as to how serious addiction is amongst females. I'm your host Ibrahim Daud. Until next week, inshallah, I'd like to thank our speakers, namely Duduzo, Samir, and Mohammed Minti.